welcome to TEDxITB 6.0.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Indra Rudiansyah, and in this TEDx main event 6.0, I would like to sharing the ideas about how scientists can become a very important to achieve the missions for Golden Indonesia. Does anyone knows what's the picture that I would like to show you here in the slides? Probably if you can raise your hands. Right. So basically, this is the picture showing how the cells get infected by the virus. Does anyone know what the virus is? Yeah, that's correct. So this virus is a SARS-CoV-2 virus that's back to 2019. It's still unidentified. The scientists in China discovered that there is a disease, in fact, occur in people in China, but they don't know what's the cause of the disease. They try to identify what the disease is, what's the cause, what the virus is, using the available tools by that times, but they are unable to identify what's the cause of that infections. Then scientists try to identify it harder and harder, and 1 month after they discover the disease, they know it's a new or novel virus called SARS-CoV-2, or by that time we name it as SARS-like virus. How scientists can know that the people get infected by the people that get infected by the virus is the virus that caused the infection is a SARS-CoV-2. It's because we build the knowledge across the decades, years, and we know that this is not categorized as a existing virus. So we build scientific knowledge and try to identify and solve the problem. Right. And if we're moving to the next slide, currently we know that there is almost 7 million people die because of COVID-19. Back in February 2020, I mean, we don't even know what's the name of the disease is. WHO finally named the disease of that caused by SARS-CoV-2 is COVID-19. And by the time, we doesn't have any equipment, any tools to prevent, to stop, or to control the spread of the virus across the world. So scientists try to work harder to find the solutions for the new problems, because by that time, we don't have any tools to solve this problem. COVID-19 is not the first pandemic that we experience today. Even it's not the largest number of death tolls. Back to early 1347, there is a disease called Black Death caused by the plague. It caused almost 50 million people die because of the infections. But the most interesting is because now human population is so high and we start to open any rural area and we get exposed to new microbial, new virus. Now we are more prone to infections. Now there is more cases of the zoonosis, which is the virus jump to animals, to humans, compared to the last decade. For example, during the pandemic of COVID-19 itself, there is a several outbreak in in Africa, such as Ebola, and also there is an outbreak about monkeypox, where basically monkeypox is an old disease, but due to some circumstances, the monkeypox is re-emerged again to the surface and infect a lot of people. So that's why we need a scientist to solve new problems. So this is all my colleagues during my PhD in Oxford. We are working very hard to find the vaccines for COVID-19. Can you identify on this picture which one is not scientist? Which one? Yeah, that's true. This is the right one. There is a politician pretend to be a scientist. This is a Boris Johnson when he's coming to our lab and pretend to be scientist for publications, basically. But here's also bring the missions that to show people that the government also support the scientists in order to make to make a solutions for the pandemic of COVID-19. So, what is the uh, things that motivated me to become a to become a vaccine scientist vaccine? So basically, I would like to ask you if you have any parents or colleague or families that have a career as medical doctors. No. So basically, we sometimes know that we have a friends that their parent is a doctor and their children also doctor. It's kind of like there is a pathway for them to have a similar occupations like their parents, but it's different with me. So I grow in a family that's quite simple. Uh, my parents is not a scientist. They are teachers, and one of them is entrepreneurs. So, but I have a sisters that 2 years old than me, and because he started school earlier than me, I always wondering what she studied actually. So I always sneaky to come to her rooms, reading her textbooks, seeing the picture about calculus, about biology, geography, and just looking at the pictures, I always feel curious about the science. Then, when I was did my undergrad, when I did my undergrad in ITB, um, uh, I studied microbiology, but we know if we are studying following the curriculum, our explorations will be limited. We only learn our skills hands-on on the labs, just just on the time of the study. So I'm always looking any opportunity to involve in kind of like competitions with my seniors or with my colleagues. For example, like PKM or IGM, synthetic biology. So that's give me an opportunity to explore more deeper than my colleagues. So when it comes to the times when I enroll in some particular subject, I know in advance about the theory about the materials that we are going to study in that class. So that's why I'm always looking the opportunity to deepen the skills in this to become a scientist. But what actually that make me really wants to become a vaccine scientist, because we know that scientist is a broad terms, but why things that make me feel like I want to become a vaccine scientist? So basically it's because I live in Indonesia. Indonesia is a tropical country, similar to other tropical countries. Our country is a very prone to tropical disease. We have malaria, we have typhoid, or we call it typhus. We have dengue, we have chikungunya, tuberculosis, and we also have a neglected tropical disease that developed country won't even thought about that. We still have a disease in area of Indonesia like rabies that developed country won't look for the solution for that because just because it's not profitable. So that's why if we are not working by ourselves, we will always left behind and we will always uh, get threatened by this disease because this disease exists in our country. So that's why this is what motivates me to become a vaccine scientist. I want to get involved in elimination at least one of the disease that exists in our country. That's why when I take PhD in Oxford, I choose to involve in the development of malaria vaccines because we are very prone to malaria disease. Yeah, but in general, scientists do science basically, right? And scientists can be part of the nation building. If you see the picture in here, there is a lot of pillars that build structures. It's same as the whole as a nation. We have a lot of occupation here that can build a nation, and one of them is scientists. The problem with the current situation is this profession left behind. It's either because more people is not interested anymore in doing science, or because the environment to do science in Indonesia is not as good as outside Indonesia. For example, there is a lot of my colleagues that has studies about particles, subatomic, that probably we don't have a facility to do more science here, or probably we are limited to the funding, or probably we are limited to the research. For example, for the vaccine research, almost 90% of the raw material need to be imported, just because our chemistry industry is not well developed. So there has a lot of limitation to the science in Indonesia, but it doesn't mean we need to leave out these professions, right? Why we need to build a community and a government that literate to science? It's because when we are literate to science individually, we can have a we will get informed to make a decision as a professional, as an individual. For example, uh, when the COVID vaccine is available, there is a lot of talks about that. Oh, Bill Gates put the microchip in the vaccine. Is it true? So if you are not scientifically literate, probably you will easily get bait by that hoax, right? But if you at least know the surface of the science, that microchip is actually quite big, even though it's called micro, and it's impossible for you to put the microchip into the vaccine. It will be feasible by naked eyes. And also the other option, the other example is about 5G. I know that Indonesia is still left behind about the 5G, but 5G is already happening outside. And even though in developed countries, there is a lot of, or the countries that have a bule, there is a lot of people thought that 5G can cause a cancer, which is that's not true, because 5G basically the more advanced technology in telecommunications, and that's not my expertise, but it's almost impossible to cause cancer by 5G. So that's why we need, as a community, to be scientifically literate. But also, not the community, but also we need to make the government of the policymakers to be scientifically literate. Why? Because almost the problems globally is caused by the natures, or yeah. So if we understand about the science about climate change, about the flood, about the earthquake, the government can make a policy better. How do we mitigate people that living in hostile area, for example, so like Indonesia, where almost every month or 3 months we have an earthquake, we have a a, 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 a bit of harsh weathers, like then flood or landslides. If the government doesn't scientifically literate, then we can see right now there is development of the house in the mountains where then it's become a landslide. So in order to make a better life, both communities and the government need to be scientifically literate. Then the question is how to make that happen, how to make society and government become scientifically literate. Well, first thing first, we need science is a collective endeavor. To make it happen, then we need the regenerations. We can't rely on our professor only. We can't rely on old generation doing a science, but we also need to regenerations. We need the youngsters to be interested back again to the science, uh, and make the science make a scientist profession is a one of profession that's reputable in Indonesia. Uh, so to make it happen, first the current scientists need to regenerations, and the second one is we need to build the environments that uh, can nurture the young scientists to become a professional scientist. And for the current scientists, we need to make sure that we can able to transfer the knowledge to the young scientists by first and for the young scientists, for the next generation scientists, we need to at least remember 5 things. The first one is get to know your countries, what is the problem that your countries has, and make a research about the problem that your country has and try to find a solution. The second one is focus on your scientific works. There will be a lot of problems when you are doing a science, but when you get a focus on your works, uh, at least you will find the clue for the next questions. The third one is be wise in selecting topic research. We know that we limited in resources, technologies. So when we are approached some problem, be wise to make an approachment about that topic. The fourth one is improve your communication skills. There is no point we do science without communicate it professionally or publicly. Yeah. Professionally, yes, there is a way to publish our research through writing the paper, conference, something like that. But also, we need to be able to communicate easily to general people, so general people can be scientifically literate. And the last ones to the message for the young scientists is collaborative locally and internationally. We know that we are limited to the resources, so that's why collaboration is the key. We can't, for example, like during the COVID-19, we can't make all the university working in the vaccine development. Why? Because it doesn't work. It's because we are limited to the resources. Then we need to collaborate to the other universities so the burden will be separated. For example, like if ITB is very advanced in molecular biology, cloning, let the university do the vaccine design. If the medical doctors in the University of Indonesia or Gajah Mada is very advanced in clinical medicines, let them do the clinical trials. If IPB is very expert in animal handling, let them do the preclinical trials. And if other university very advanced in epidemiology or surveillance, let's do the surveillance. So that's the collaboration that can make the scientific endeavors very successful. And three messages for government how to build the government become scientifically literate or support the scientists as a good profession. First, make a sustainable funding. The second one is create a system that can leverage the scientist community and involving scientists in making a decision. For the next one is I would like to talk about mRNA vaccines. Currently, we don't have this technology, so this is now my current job to make Indonesia as a platform for producing a vaccine for using mRNA technology. So the last but not least is if we already capable to building the capacities, then we can collaborate internationally, because in order to solve the global problem, we need the global solutions, and we need to build a capacity first in order to make a global collaboration. At the end, I just want to say something that science basically is belongs to the world, but scientists belong to the country. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you so much.